I want to do some work now looking at, I've talked some about central Christian concepts and values and things. So I want to kind of dig deep into that and look at, talk about what I mean by that and how that impacts us. And we'll do some history stuff probably right after lunch rather than right before, because I don't think we'll have enough time. But I think that there's a set of key Christian concepts that are dominant in our society. And then there's a whole network of subsidiary concepts. And so I want to highlight the key ones and have us think about the impact on our lives of them a little bit, and then see if we can kind of name some of the subsidiary ones that relate to some of these core ones. So first of all, Christianity is fundamentally built on a binary system. It comes out of Manichaeism in the early centuries of the Common Era, and really was shaped around everything is either or, cosmic dualism, good, bad, right, wrong. And it's so deep in our language that I'm constantly surprised at how often during the day I say something is good or something is bad, including the weather, for instance, or, that's good behavior, or that was a bad thing that happened to them, or I mean, if you begin to think about how deeply this is embedded in our thinking, how much we think of things as either or. You're either with us or against us. Our foreign policy fundamentally is based upon a dualism. There's no compromise, there's no in-between, there's no complexity beyond that dualism. Now, the other piece that goes really closely with that is that dualism is embedded in a cosmic battle between good and evil. And so that raises the stakes pretty high, right? If everything in the world is a competition, a struggle between God and God's servants, and the devil or Satan and Satan's adherents or converts or whatever, then everything becomes divided, not just different and separate and opposite, but at war. Everything is at war. And the stakes are high because it's the stake of the world, and it's the stake of our individual souls and everlasting life, eternal life in some ways. So one of the things that Christianity did over the centuries was it took what was seen as a cosmic battle out there between Satan and God and all the way. And what Augustine did in the 4th century was said that battle is within each of us. That we, in fact, embody that battle between our evil, sinful tendencies and our move or search for God and purity. So we'll talk about all of these in more depth. But the third thing is that there's a concept of love within a theology of dominance and hierarchy. And that's a very complex one, because love, there's all kinds of ways we talk about love, right? But we tend to think about it as a mutual relationship often. But within the dominant Christian framework, it's within a hierarchy of relationships. God to Jesus, Jesus to the church, if you're Catholic, the church to individuals, or if you're not, but a minister to his flock, a father to his partner and children, parents to kids. There is deeply embedded hierarchical structures, and part of those structures is the mandate for the person who has the authority to so love their dependents that they can discipline them and shape them and guide them to God, basically. And the whole history of child raising in U.S. society, in U.S. history, has been around that framework of parents disciplining their children because they love them and they want them to be good. They want them to be moving on a path towards God. And there is nothing that a parent can't do in terms of discipline and violence in order to save the soul of their children. And we often hear that, spare the rod and spoil the child. But even today, I think it's something like 85% of adults in this country believe that it's okay to hit kids. We're one of the few countries in the world where it's still legal to hit kids. And in school, it's also, in many places, legal. So there's this sense that the love, and often the thing that men have said historically before they hit their partners is because they love her, but she's out of control, or she's dangerous, or she's seductive, or she's somehow threatening, and therefore it's okay to discipline her because that's the authority that men have in this system. In other words, violence gets justified in the name of love. Now, of course, there's lots of other ways to think about love, and there's lots of ways to interpret Christianity in terms of love that doesn't do that. But in terms of the last centuries of dominant culture, that hierarchy and domination and love have been intertwined. And it makes it really confusing for most of us because we're raised in a society in which we're constantly flooded with media images of violence and love going together. Again, there's plenty to talk about here. Another central concept is people are innately sinful individuals who need to be saved. And this obviously comes originally out of the Christian concept of original sin, and that everyone who is born is innately sinful, and that individuals are the core reality, that our individual relationship with God, whether we're saved or not, is the key factor of our lives. So there's an individualism that's incorporated there, and there's this concept of sin that permeates everything that we do, and this concept of being saved, needing to be saved, which at its foundation says that we're not okay, that people are not inherently okay, that we're not whole, that our bodies are not good, that our feelings are not good, that all of those things are dangerous and either sinful or potentially sinful. I mean, most of us probably in this room did not grow up with a sense of original sin in any kind of visible, obvious way. But there's probably ways that all of us have been manipulated in our lives about not feeling good about our bodies and our feelings that were based upon a society that's based upon people being sinful. We live in a criminal legal system that's based on the concept of sin. So again, there's layers and layers of how this works. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So one truth, one way to God. This meant that all other ways of knowing were discredited. All other cultures and ways of being in the world spiritually were discredited, valueless. There's only one truth, and that is found in Jesus Christ. And that is permission right there to destroy everything that's in the way, because if it's not us, then who is it? It's the cosmic battle. It must be evil. So any other tradition is not just different. Difference, you can't value difference because difference is other and other is dangerous. And so it sets up antagonism against every other non-Christian way of being in the world. And of course, the part of the mandate of having the truth was to spread the truth, God's truth, throughout the world, which is why this system of missionaries and conversion, it meant that not only could you not accept other people's truths, but you had to actively destroy them because you had a mandate to spread the word and to either convert or kill anybody who was in the way of that. The final thing is Christianity is based on a linear and temporal focus in the world. And that has a lot of implications for us. By temporal, that's contrasted with spatial. A lot of cultures in the world have been based really deeply on the place where they were. Indigenous cultures come to mind in particular around the world. They're place-based, not time-place. Christianity doesn't have an intrinsic center or a place. It's a moving religion. You can convert anybody anywhere, and that's what is the goal. And so there is no inherent respect for place, for the earth. It's not just temporal, it's linear. Because a lot of other cultures are temporally based, but they're cyclical. They're based on natural cycles or cosmic cycles or wheels of life, patterns of life, whereas Christianity and Judaism and Islam to some extent are linear. History started at a certain point. History is going to end at a certain point. There's a straight line, there's an arrow from one to the other, and that unfolding, particularly in Christianity, is the unfolding of God's plan. So that this is a particular way that shapes very much how we understand history in our society, how we understand our focus in terms of progress, our lack of focus in terms of place. It obviously has implications for environmental policy and things like that. So again, these are kind of, not each one of these is unique to Christianity, but the particular combination is unique to Christianity, the overall package of it. So I want to open it up for some discussion, because I'm raising a lot of challenging and complex issues here. This is my particular way of framing this. And in a minute, we'll talk about subsidiary and related concepts that go with that. But let's just stop and take a breath. There's a lot that's on the table in front of us. What's up? What are the questions or feelings, or not even quite there to a question yet kind of things going on?